I am Supreme, and today's Astro Oracle investigation will be on Nieko Lisi. Okay, this is a request from, of course, one of my top subscribers, Abraham Isaac. Thank you once again. This case so far looks very interesting, and I can't wait to see how it pans out. Also, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell button so that way you will be notified when I drop these investigations. Okay, I got some more of my candles on the way because this candle has been going out lately. I can't seem to get that peace inside where I need it to be. And it's so dark down there, I can't even see what's going on, but it won't stay lit. However, you know, the craft is powerful. I am covered in the fire, okay, and very well protected, whether I like these candles or not. But I do like the props. You know, it adds to the magic. And of course, they do work, you know, but I also work without the props as well. Okay, so with that being said, I do have my zodiac candle lit because I do believe it sends a smoke signal out to the etheric realm, and it lets those spirits know that I am officially clocked in and ready to be of service to who I am reaching out to. Okay, and because that is how I believe, that is how the universe shows up for me. Okay, so, and it works. Okay, and that is why I do what I do, because it works. Okay, so I'm reaching out to Nieko Lisi based on the investigations that I've seen so far and the videos that I've watched, the cold cases and what I've researched online. um you know, I have a strong feeling that he is no longer with us, you know, but you never know how these cases pan out. However, we will get down to the bottom once this investigation is over. Once this Astro Oracle investigation is over, we will know whether Nieko Lisi is alive or whether he has passed on. We will get down to finding out where his body is, okay, so we can bring justice to his family, okay? So, I do have in front of me the planetary alignments of when Nieko Lisi was born and when he went missing, okay? Because I will be comparing the planetary energies to be able to formulate the story of what was most likely to manifest during that planetary alignment, okay? Because the alignments are universal laws of energy, frequency, and vibrations. Okay, so I have he was born June the 13th, 1993. Okay, and he went missing September 30th of 2011. Okay, so before I pull both of those charts and compare them to, let's talk about a little rundown of some information that I received about Nieko Lisi. Okay, tuning into his energy, he was very close to his grandmother. Okay, Nieko Lisi is from Addison, New York, and that's where he was last seen by his family. It was said that he got into a bad crowd. Nieko Lisi was 18 years old. Okay, he got into a bad crowd. Okay, and he had some charges against him, charges for burglary. Okay, and sex with a minor. All right. He and his friend, I think his friend name was Robert Nye, something like that. He and his friend stopped at his friend's uncle's house. Okay, and they were in a pickup truck, and his friend told the uncle that it was the friend's grandfather's pickup truck. Okay, and they were supposed to be going to Buffalo. So the uncle was the last person to see Nieko alive. Okay, and visible. Okay, we don't know whether he's still alive or not, but he was the last person to see Nieko and his friend visibly. Okay, now him and his Nieko and his friend were supposed to go to Buffalo to meet up with some girls, and they were supposed to go have a party, and you know, because that's the life that they lived. Okay, now October the 1st, okay, because this was September 30th when his uncle last seen Nieko. Okay, now October the 1st, Nico's grandmother contacted him, and she said that Nieko picked up the phone, but he couldn't talk. He said he couldn't talk. Okay, and to this very day, that was the last time she heard Nico's voice was heard. But the grandmother is not sure whether that was him because it was a very quick phone call, and it was during a time where they was actually looking for him. Okay, so 2 days later, Nico's mother received Nico's driver's license in the mail. It had been found 2 days prior to his disappearance. Okay, so we know wherever he was without his license. That was another red flag. The first red flag was that he never returned. They haven't seen him. The second red flag is the license. Okay? So now the third red flag is that all of his social medias were deactivated. And his mother wanted to know why, because she knew that Nieko had a habit. He had a social media habit. He was always on social media. So it was very odd for him to delete his accounts. Now, the fourth red flag. It was later confirmed that the pickup truck that Nieko and his friend Robert was last seen in was a stolen truck. It did not belong to the friend's grandfather. It was stolen. Nieko has a history of hanging out with the wrong crowd. Okay? So, the truck was stolen. All right? Now, it was found 5 years later in 2016. Mind you, today is July the 15th, the 16th. Okay, going into the 16th because it's nighttime. This is July 16th, 2025. Okay? Nieko Lisi's truck, the last truck that him and Robert was last seen in, was found 6 years later, 5 years later in 2016, in a private garage at a party house. Okay, it was found in a party house that used to be called a party house back when it was open, but it was abandoned now in 2016. But it used to be known as a party house. Okay, totally stripped down and chopped up. Why was it totally stripped down and chopped up? Okay, so that's a red flag. That's enough red flags for me to know that I don't think Nieko Lisi is no longer with us. Somebody would have heard something by now and he would have reached out. Okay? Nobody's saying anything. So we do know that Nieko Lisi had this thing with minor girls. He loved women and he loved sex. And he also loved to pursue these young girls for sex. Okay? Borderline rape. All right? So, when I looked at his birth chart, which was pulled from June 13th, 1993, okay, the sun was in Gemini and the moon was in Aries. And y'all know how I divide time. Time is the sun divided by moon cycles. So that means I put the moon in Aries inside of Gemini's house, which is the third house. When Aries is in the third house, Aquarius is rising. So this is Nieko Lisi's birth chart in his birth energy. Okay? Now, on the day that Nieko Lisi went missing, the sun was in Libra and the moon was in Sagittarius. So when Sagittarius is in Libra's house, which is the seventh house, Gemini is rising. So I'm going to go over some synchronicities that I already see that's already painting a story of what's taking place with Nieko Lisi that's leading up to his disappearance. Okay? And the first clue that I see in both of these charts is Nieko Lisi's Mars. Okay? His moon was in Aries. Okay? And Mars rules Aries. So following Mars, I see that Nieko Lisi's Mars was in Leo. Why is this important? Because not only was his Mars in Leo at birth, but Mars was also in Leo during the day he went missing. And what is Mars in Leo? Mars represents the pursuit. Okay? Leo represents love affairs, children, recreational activities, playful sex affairs. Okay? Not the type of sex that creates children, but the type of sex that you can go out sex trafficking, or you go pick up a woman, you say, hey, let's go have sex, let's go have fun. And then after that, the woman goes her own way and he goes his own way. Okay? The playful type of sex affairs. Okay? And we knew that Nieko had a strong energy in that area. And it shows because I see both alignments in the same sign. Now, I'm going to show you why this stood out to me. Was because in Nieko Lisi's birth chart, okay, he was a Gemini, okay? And his Gemini energy is in the fifth house. That's Leo's house. That's where his Mars is. His Mars is in Leo, okay? But that Mars in Leo is in his house of relationships. These were the type of relationships that Nieko Lisi developed, was relationships in pursuit of young women, okay? Playful sex affairs with these young women, possibly rape, okay, against their will, but it was forced, okay? He had this fetish, okay, and it shows, okay? Now, on the day that Nieko Lisi was last seen, look what comes first. That Gemini energy that he was in, that was in his house of playful sex affairs. That comes first. Okay, so we knew that his disappearance, that is the energy that came first. He was in pursuit of these young affairs. Okay, and he traveled for these pursuits. And look at where Leo is in the third house, in Gemini's house. This young particular female that he was in pursuit of is in his local environment. Okay, they pick, it's like sex trafficking. Nieko Lisi was not alone. Okay, because his birth chart is an 11th house chart. 11th house chart is the chart of groups, gangs, organizations, sororities, fraternities, okay, cults, all types of things. So Nieko Lisi was never alone. Okay, he was a part of a group. He was a part of a gang. Okay, he was a part of a fraternity, a sorority, or however these guys link up, and they all have the same thing in common. Whether it's getting girls and having sex and throwing these parties, because it was said that he was on his way to one of these parties. And I actually see that in the chart. Okay. So there were some females that were traveling along with them. Okay. Sex workers. Okay. Because I'm looking in the sixth house and I see Scorpio energy, the energy of sex. And I see the energy of work. And why am I looking in for Scorpio in the sixth house? Because Pluto, which is where I'm also going to look, because Pluto is the energy of death. I always look for what Pluto was doing, so I will find out whether the person is still alive or dead, or if they died, how they was most likely to transition. Okay, so Pluto, Nieko's Pluto was in Scorpio. Okay, and in his birth chart, it was in Capricorn's house because he was in pursuit of these sexual affairs. Okay, he was in pursuit. Scorpio in the 10th house, in Capricorn's house. Now, that was the next dot I was going to connect. That's ironic because for his Pluto in Scorpio to be in Capricorn's house, look where Pluto was the day Nieko went missing. It was in Capricorn. Okay? And in his missing chart, look where Capricorn is at, in the house of death. Capricorn is the energy of law enforcement. It is the energy of the father. It is the energy of the authority figure. Okay? So, when it shows up in the house of death, okay, it shows up in the house of death after coming from the house of the hidden. In his birth chart, Capricorn energy was hidden. Okay? And guess what? The day he went missing, because the hidden house is Pisces' house, the 12th house. That's Pisces' house. Look where Pisces was the day that he went hidden. The day that he went missing, it's in the 10th house, Capricorn's house. Okay, so the person responsible for Nieko Lisi's death is hidden. Okay, now what that also means is that he just might be hiding. He might not be dead, he might be hiding, but we're going to find out. Okay, because all these dots connect to death and hiding. Okay, and there's definitely money involved because in Pisces house, the day that Nieko Lisi was last seen, I see Taurus, okay, which is the energy of earning capacity, money, and physical resources, financial resources, material resources, okay? So, let's pull a chart, okay? Venus in the 6th house, okay? This card right here is going to open up the chart of where we're going to talk about what happened to Nieko Lisi. Venus, the day Nieko went missing, is in Libra, the partner. Okay? Now, check this out because he wasn't alone. Now, this partner showed up in the 6th house. So, Venus in Libra in the 6th house will give us a Taurus rising chart. Okay? Now, because Venus in Libra is in the 6th house. Why did this 2nd house chart come out? This is money and material resources. I just got finished talking about money and material resources and earning capacity. And this is the chart, the oracle chart that Nieko Lisi's energy pulled. This is where his energy is coming from. So I've made contact with his energy. Okay, now Nieko was a Gemini. Where is Gemini at in this chart? It's actually in the 2nd house of money and material resources. Okay, now they found the truck 6 years later that was stripped. Okay, now Nico's moon was in Aries, but the moon, the day that Nieko went missing, was in Sagittarius, right? So, in this oracle chart, where is Nico's moon? In the house of the hidden. He was hiding, okay? Or if he's gone, his body is hidden because Aries represents the body, okay? And there's money involved with his body being hidden, okay? Or if he's still alive, he's hiding, of course, because no one knows where he's at. And this July 16th, 2025, okay? So, the moon in Sagittarius, the day he went missing, is in the house of death. Okay? So, what does this mean when Sagittarius is in the house of death? That means that if he is alive or dead, his body, dead or alive, is hiding most likely in the woods somewhere on a journey because Sagittarius represents long journeys. It also represents the mountains and the woods. It represents hiking and hiking paths, dirt roads. Are y'all with me? Okay, make sure you're utilizing my tutorial video in the link below that will give you a general meaning of every sign, symbol, planet, house number that you will see me talk about or pull in any of my cards or talk about in any of my charts. Okay, so now this partner that he was working with, okay, Robert, guess what? Robert was also found dead in his home years later due to a drug overdose. Okay? Now, the 12th house is also represents drugs as well in a toxic situation. And this is a toxic situation. Okay, anytime somebody's missing, your loved one is missing, that's a toxic situation. And then the friend claimed that Nieko dropped him off in Franklin because that is where Nico's phone was last pinged, in Franklin. And the friend said that Nieko stole his phone. But Nico's phone was last pinged in Franklin, Tennessee, which is where Nieko went to school at. Okay? But just because his phone pinged in Franklin doesn't mean that Nieko was there. So, Nieko was most likely last seen, and if he's dead, his body would be in New York. Okay? So, I'm going to pull from the lost and found dead. We're going to get straight to where his body is. We know where the vehicle is. The vehicle was found in an abandoned place, which used to be a party house, which is not far from where Nieko lives in New York. So obviously, where is Nieko Lisi's body? That's what we're looking for, Nieko, your body, whether it's dead or alive. Tapping into the soul of the planetary forces, we are locating Nieko Lisi's body. Where is your body? I don't believe he's alive. Okay? So we do need to find his body. The 11th house, a wooded area. I knew it. I told you, the woods. Okay? His body is hiding in a wooded area in the community. Okay? In the community. Okay? A wooded area in the community. What community? Okay? Because in Nieko's birth chart, this is, okay, in Nieko's birth chart, okay, in the 11th house, all right, because look at the 11th house. You'll see, like I said, Sagittarius that showed up in the house of death in the oracle chart, which is why we know his body is somewhere hiding in the woods, okay, in his birth chart. Look where Sagittarius is, in the 11th house. That wooded area is in the community where he's from. Okay? He's not far. He's not down in Franklin, Tennessee. His body is in New York. Okay? Now, in the 11th house of the oracle chart that was pulled represents the hidden. That's why his body is hiding. All right? In that community. Whose body is hiding in that community? When you look in his missing chart, you'll see Aries represents the self, his body. His body is hiding in the community in a wooded area. Okay? All the 11th houses connect the dots to Nieko Lisi's body being hidden in the woods by that partner that he was working with. Okay? By the partner that he was working with. Okay? Now, that partner is dead. So who can we link up with that is still alive that can lead us to the evidence of Nieko Lisi's body? Because his friend, partner, Robert, that he was last seen with is dead and gone. So there will be no answers coming from Robert. And we knew that Robert was lying, okay, up front. So, and the car that was found in that old party house that they used to have them freak offs at, all of that's abandoned. So, who is alive and well today that knows something that we can link up with, that the authorities can find, that will bring closure to this case, that can lead us to Nieko Lisi's body? Yeah, because his body is buried in the woods in his community, and they're going to find it. And I'm going to help them. The 7th house. Physical evidence in the 7th house. Somebody he was in a relationship with. There's somebody that he was in a relationship with. Okay? Because remember I told you in his birth chart, his Mars was in Leo. And that was where he was pursuing that relationship. Remember I told you his Gemini was in Leo's house. Okay? So he pursued relationships with these young girls. One of these young girls is still alive and well today. Okay? And they have physical evidence of Nieko Lisi's body. So they got to start questioning those girls. And one of those girls worked at a fast food place because Mercury rules Gemini. And this particular girl, Mercury that day, uh, Mercury was in Libra, but Nieko Lisi's Mercury was in Cancer. Okay, so the kind of girls that he communicated with, okay, that he built that relationship with, because on the day that he went missing, Mercury was in Libra, okay? And Libra rules the seventh house, okay? Also, this Venus was in Libra on that day as well, and it was in the sixth house of work. And in Nieko Lisi's birth chart, you see Cancer there. When Cancer is in the house of work, Cancer represents the home, family, cooking, the mother. This also in the house of work represents those type of jobs. So this girl most likely worked at a fast food place in the community where Nieko Lisi is from. She's still alive and well today. It could have been one of the fast food places that he frequented. You know, he goes there frequently and eats at. One of those girls is alive and well today. And that is the girl that knows where Nieko Lisi is at, and she has physical evidence. Okay, she has physical evidence of that. Okay, now she may have. This is all right. Let's pull from the evidence. Okay, because this means physical evidence, and this pulled from the chart of who. Who are we talking about? This relationship that was pulled in physical evidence, and this was somebody that he was having sex with, because in the oracle chart in the seventh house, you see Scorpio energy, sex. Okay, I just seen 27 across the screen. Okay, and in the seventh house, this was somebody that was traveling with him. Okay, this was a foreigner, somebody who was of a different race than Nieko. Now, Nieko was biracial. Okay, clearly you can see it. I mean, you could tell he has some mixture in him, but this is somebody from a totally different race than him. It could have been a pure African American or a pure Irish, because Nieko Lisi does not look pure. He doesn't look pure white. Okay, he's definitely not pure black, but you could definitely see that he was mixed. This particular girl that he was fooling around with, has more pure. You can clearly tell at first sight. She's either pure black, she's more black than Nieko Lisi is, or she's more white than what he is. Okay? So I'm going to pull from my evidence deck, being that the physical evidence in the house of relationships came out. Okay? Let me tell you something. She might be pregnant. Okay? She might have a child from him. Either way it go, she also has evidence of Nieko Lisi and where he's at and where his body is. And she's staying quiet because she's a part of that investigation. But she don't want to put herself out there. But see, the energy is showing me where she's at and where she worked at that point in time. Okay, not sure if she still works at that restaurant. Okay, but she definitely has worked at a fast food place because I'm seeing that in the chart. Now, what's this evidence in the first house? Biological evidence. Blood, saliva, semen, hair, body fluids, other tissue, clothes, and skin in the first house of the body. Okay? So, biological evidence can be found on her body. Okay? Um, the body of an individual. Okay? In the local environment. Okay? Um, right. Mm-hmm. And then Taurus. This was somebody that was getting paid from Nieko Lisi. Because the first house, Taurus, is there in the Oracle chart. All right? Taurus is there. And Venus rules Taurus. And Venus was in Libra the day he went missing. And Venus was in Nieko Lisi's Taurus, his body. Okay? His biological evidence is going to be found on this girl. Okay? I believe that Nieko Lisi impregnated her. Yep. I believe because his Venus was in Taurus. And Taurus is in the first house of the chart that was pulled. And Venus was the chart. And Venus was the card that was pulled in order to regulate this chart, to pull this chart. Okay? And it was found in the sixth house of work and health. So this is somebody that's at work. Somebody that he met while they was at work. Okay? Because Venus rules Libra and Taurus. And this person works at a fast food place. This person works at a fast food place.